Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome. Hello, hello. Happy Thursday. You know what Thursday is, Beyond Small Talk Day. Real women, real conversations, elevating womankind one talk at a time. And my name is Jackie Janik, your co-host today, women's empowerment coach, helping women uncover their purpose and define their own path in the world. And today you're watching Beyond Small Talk, and I know I say it a lot of weeks that I'm excited for co-hosts, and I truly am excited for every single co-host. But today is Anna Goldstein, and she's super special to me because she was my first ever life coach. Oh my God. Like, I'm nervous. Anna, I see you on there. I'm like nervous to talk to you, and I'm so excited. I just can't even. So Anna is a life coach. She's a Profit with Purchase. I'm sorry. I'm so excited. I'm tripping over my words, Anna. Profit with Purpose podcast host, and she is an Amazon bestseller with her new book coming out shortly, Be Bold, A Guide to Unbreakable Confidence. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we're getting her on right now. I'm sorry, Anna. It just said that you needed the latest version of Instagram to join. Oh my God, I'm so sorry that I did that to you. I should have told you that before. Is there any way that you can go to your software and update that? I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Anna. If you could, again, if you hear me, can you go to your IG and update your software? I know, like IG keeps doing this to everybody, and I'm like, okay, she'll be right back. Quick. So while she's doing that, let me just fill you in real quick. Again, my history with Anna. We started back in 2008. I saw Anna, like literally, I wrote down the date, October 13th, 2008. And this is like a different era where I don't even think Instagram was in existence then, right? But Facebook was. So I found her on Facebook, and why I was like, I'm going to work with her is because her handle is Self in the City. And I was like, oh, just like Sex in the City. So let me go work with her. I was 30. I was around 30-ish. And my love life was like toxic in the shitter. It was pretty bad. And my husband, who happens, that was the relationship back then. Usually he doesn't listen to this. So, but anyway, I've told him anyway. He knows our relationship was in the shitter. So that's why I sought out a life coach. Now, what's different between a life coach and a therapist is life coach works on present, moving forward. They ask really great questions that stretch you. You remain curious and just, I don't know. It just seemed more progressive to me than doing a therapist, right? So I was like, okay. So we started and we met in this little cafe in Chelsea on 8th Avenue. And she just always asked me the most awesome questions. And I have to tell you, when you work with a life coach, as much as you love them to death, and a really good life coach will stretch you like beyond, where sometimes you're just looking at them and be like, I just don't want to answer your question. And those kind of feelings came up a little bit before we just started. I was like, are you kidding? Anna, oh my God, can you stop asking me such like hard questions that just makes me like, gets me to the core. So one of the questions what she asked, which you might not think, okay, she's back. You might not think is a hard one, is called, how much longer? Sound like a tough question, but for some it is. Me, it wasn't. My answer, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I said to her. Came back, we were in. Hi, Anna.
Hey, Jackie.
Oh my God. Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I see you're in like beautiful sunny Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, right? It's just so nice to be outside.
To get like some fresh air. I'm missing the fresh air. It's finally nice in New York, so that this is just like, you just want to be
Yeah.
outside.
Good.
Oh my God. I was just telling a little story about how you're my first life coach, and I'm like nervous but so excited that you agreed to even come on here. I'm like, you're big time. You have a book on Amazon. Holy shit.
Well, you're rocking it. I'm so proud of you. Not surprised by any means, but it's so funny that like here we are years later. It's an honor for me to be with you, when you doing your own
Oh.
thing, making things happen. It's awesome. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I know, doesn't it feel like, because after you, I got into coaching halfway because like what we worked together. I went to NYU because you went to NYU, and I was like, well, if Anna did it, like that's the place to go. And then when you have like your first few clients, and I don't know what number I was, I know I was like more in the beginning. I
Yeah.
feel like they're like my little babies, and like you watch them grow. And I had a co-host like a few weeks ago, Alex, who started this whole Women of Culture. I'm like, oh, I feel like you're like my child, and you just like blossomed, right?
Yeah, I totally understand. I mean, it brings me so much joy, which is obviously why I do what I do, to see other people blossom, right? Which is, it's just, you understand because you're doing that now, and it's so awesome.
Yeah, it just feels good. Anyway, I wanted to talk more about your book. Of course, I pre-ordered it. Everyone, again, is called Be Bold, The Guide to Unbreakable Confidence. And it also comes with such a great workshop, like a little some videos, some downloads. So you get that for free. So go to Amazon. We'll put this in our info from where to go. But what inspired you to write a book? Has this been brewing for you? Like why'd you say a book?
Oh, it's interesting. I've always wanted to write a book, but I had this limiting belief that I wasn't sure if I really could, right? And I wasn't sure if I knew how or what to write it on and how to go through that whole process, right? So I feel like I got lucky. I do believe that you plant, I'm a big believer in planting seeds. So I kind of view my life and I view also how I run my business as always planting seeds, right? Like we're planting seeds right now. Like everything you do is planting seeds, and then from nurturing those seeds, things grow and things happen. And so I feel lucky in the sense where a publishing company found me and they invited me to write on the topic of confidence, which I absolutely love this topic because it comes up in almost all my conversations with people. Like the root of what's really going on in all areas is that most of the time what's getting in our way is fear. And so we think that we need to have more confidence so that we can get the things that we want or cultivate the things that we want, when really it's learning to work with fear. So, I had been coaching at the point that I got the publishing contract. I had been coaching for maybe 13 years, maybe more. And in my head, it became very clear on this process of how to actually teach what I've been doing with clients for so many years. And so I take people through a process where chapter one really starts with the voice in your head, because that's also been my biggest struggle. And I've had the good fortune of being able to hear so many different people's thoughts about themselves, thoughts about their life. And we're so similar in so many ways, because we all have, no matter how much somebody has accomplished, no matter what position somebody holds, everybody has a negative voice in their head. And so um, I find that to be helpful because it's so easy to glorify other people as being better, having it more together, more figured it out, or maybe it's easier for them because fill in the blank, they have more time, more money, more this, whatever we think, right, from the outside. But from the inside, it could be a whole different story. And I think just my goal in some regard is to kind of level the playing field, that we all have this negative voice in our head, that it's not because we so easily can feel like something's wrong with us, or that even we can feel bad for having negative thoughts, or feel like we need to have it figured out before we take action, and our thoughts need to be fully aligned, like I believe in myself, which isn't really true. So I really,
I mean, yeah, that didn't happen with this Beyond Small Talk.
yeah,
Like I wanted to always be like since college. I was like, oh, I want a mic, and I just like that was in my head. But then I thought, I'm 44. Who wants to hear me? I have an accent. I trip over my words. it's a pandemic. I was like, who's gonna come on and talk to me? Like everything went through my head that was like, no, you can't do it. No, you can't do it. Why would like and it still does. Like, don't get me wrong. Like every once in a while, I don't really listen to myself after because I will like never get back on. Yet some of the other things that I hear is like, I'm helping people, like sharing people's stories, providing experts that I love connection and community. That same thing. It's like, how do I navigate those fears? And with me, confidence is just building more repetition, like doing this more and more. My fear level has gotten smaller. Like it's a little still pit in my stomach when I start, but I think that's a good one. Like that's not like a crippling fear. It's more of like, oh my God, I'm so excited. This is where I feel like I shine. I even tell myself, showtime. Like, but not showtime that this isn't really me. Like this is still really me. Like I'm not faking this. But it's just how much truly like the joy comes out in doing this. So I hear it's good to know that it's still just not me that has this like crazy talk in my head.
Yeah, no, look, I've been podcasting even for over 4 years, and it's still like, when I interview someone, I still have that a little bit of fear there. And I don't know if it goes away. I mean, it definitely has decreased with repetition, like you said, but I think that some of it is is normal. And I think like part of what I want to do with being able to recognize the negative voice in your head is normalize that, so that it
Mm.
doesn't stop you from taking action, or that fear doesn't stop you from taking action, because after you take that action, like it, you feel so good. And that's how you
Yeah.
confidence is it's after you take the action that you were afraid to take.
And then I think about like, well, what was all the fear really about? Like, what was that fear really about? Half of it is like I'm really good at like storytelling and making things up, and I'm good with just making it bigger. I was reading our past emails from like literally 2008, and you said in one of them, think ink. And I was like, that's such a smart little thing I've been thinking, that writing your fears down. You were like, write those down, because when you get it out of your head onto paper, I don't know if you include that in the book, but I was like, that's such a good tip. Think ink.
Yeah, think with ink. Yeah, it does. When it gets it out of your head, it doesn't swirl around as much. Um, but yeah, I think look, I think it's part of our nature. We're wired for safety. That's fundamental,
Mhm.
right? So anytime you're doing anything new, or going into the unknown, it's a little bit scary, and so it's learning to kind of recognize and befriend that fear, right? So chapter one is the voice in your head. I think chapter two is befriend of fear. I don't want to give it all away, but it's really important to recognize that, okay, there's fear there, and you can have fear, but you don't need to be afraid. You don't need to become the fear. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah.
And so it's learning to recognize, oh, hi, fear, I see you, but you're not gonna control my choices and my actions. I hear that voice, right? Like you still hear the voice. Sorry for the loud cars in Florida.
It looks like.
But you still hear the voice, but you're able to say, okay, I see you, I hear you, but I still want to take this action. I still want to have my beyond small talk conversations, right? Like,
Yeah.
so you're still able to move through it.
Yeah, and that's the important part, because like what's at the other end? You said it feels good, right? So what if, you move through it, say you don't become the one with the fear, and the outcome is maybe something you didn't think. Maybe you didn't feel good afterwards. Does that ever happen?
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, right? And things aren't going to go as planned. Um, but I think in my experience, which I can really only speak from my experience, and even hearing clients' stories, is you still feel good that you overcame that limitation that you felt in your head. Does that make sense? You still feel like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, maybe it didn't, maybe I'm disappointed in the outcome and it didn't exactly happen as I wanted, but I still feel good that I did it. You know, maybe
Mm-hmm.
you,
Yeah.
you know, maybe it's like, this is a good example, right? Because maybe you're applying to a job or you're an entrepreneur and you want to reach out to somebody who you're a little afraid to reach out to. So I wanted to reach out to pitch myself to a podcast. And I thought about this for so long. I mean, Jackie, this was months. I thought about, how am I going to pitch this? Really want to be on the show. I did like, you know, a pitch. And then I rewrote it. Then I was looking for their email. I mean, this took me months. Finally, I sent the email and they were like, oh, sorry, we're not accepting guests right now, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I can't believe I waited like 4 months to send that email. So the outcome wasn't what I wanted, but I still felt good that I took the action. And I was like, why did I wait so long?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so it's, you know, it's, I do think it gets, with practice, you want to shorten those time frames. So now, like, I'm pitching myself to podcasts, and you know, no problem. But it's just funny to think how we all do it. You know, it's like no matter what level. I'm sure Oprah still has some fear. Like, she's still human.
I would hope some fear for Oprah. She can't be like all the time. Like, so we're talking about like unbreakable confidence. Like, I don't think anyone has confidence 24/7, right? Is that basically what we're saying?
Yeah,
Like
that's
you're,
basically what I'm saying. Is that,
yeah.
you know, like that's like you gotta, we're human, and so we have to embrace that human side, right? This survival instinct in us wants to stay safe. The survival instinct will tell us negative things so that we do stay safe. I think really my intention is really to reframe confidence from this idea of like I have it all together, or like I have to look a certain way to feel confident. Like, you know, I spent years wanting a flat belly so that I could feel better about myself, so I could beat a guy. Now my belly hangs from having a baby and I feel more confident than ever. So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we think that confidence comes from these external factors of like, you know, when I get this or when I have this, then I'll feel confident. And really, confidence is really being able to be with your vulnerability and your weakness and not let it stop you. And it's really about, you know, it's really about being able to take action even when you're afraid, not waiting to feel confident and then take action, because you'll be waiting a really long time.
Forever. Like there's always going to
You know,
be some of that fear, and it's crazy that you say that because I've been really playing with this a lot because I've been thinking, well, I'm overweight, you know, like, oh, I just look so puffy, like I'm, you know, I gained some COVID weight. I did. It is what it is, right? That tend to be my coping mechanism over the past year, just a little extra comfort food, right? and and then I'm thinking like, why don't I just be in the moment and just like do it anyway? I was like, it might take me years to lose weight. I have no idea. I've been talking a lot. I've been going on this bit of this perimenopause challenge. I'm in that season. I keep always like, I'm in the season of perimenopause. I don't feel like I'm old enough, but the body's telling me I am.
okay.
So it's been challenging with some like emotions coming up and just whatever that it is. But my point is like just go and do it anyway. And then I think, well, how am I just going to go and do it anyway? How do you say like how do you move on anyway? Just do it even though you
Yeah.
have fear. Like
Well, first it's like, what is it, right? Like,
mm,
what is the it that you really want to do? So many people, when, you know, one of the most common questions I ask people is, what do you want? And I can't tell you how many people say, I don't know. Just like, I don't know. Well, if you don't know what you want, it's going to be really hard to get it, right? Or by default, you'll just get whatever you get, you know? So there's there's a lot of sifting through, like, what is it that I really want, right? And when you identify that and you get clarity on what is it that I really want, start with one thing. right? There might be a whole list of things, but maybe it's for you, Jackie, maybe it's that you want to feel more calm and peaceful. It's identifying first, like, how do you want to feel? What is it that you want to go after that you're holding yourself back from, right? And then it's really about, okay, what's one really small thing that I could do, small, right? That can move me in that direction, right? Because it's not the speed, it's the direction. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it takes you a year, 2 years. Many things that I wanted took longer than I expected. Some things took less time, but many times they take longer than I think they're going to. So it's reminding yourself you're heading in that direction, right? So I'm trying to think of something really concrete here. Um, so things can change rather quickly, and they come from small changes. Like you're saying, if you want to feel more peaceful, like maybe it's meditate for 5 minutes a day, right? Or if you want to eat healthier, it's maybe add something small that's easy, that's attainable. Maybe it's drink more water, right? Like these.
That's what I've been doing. Like
Yeah,
little subtle changes like that. So I'm like always here, like with my monitoring my water, monitoring like times that it's just everything I turn off. Put the phone down, turn the
yeah,
TV off, and just sit with myself. I think, particularly a lot of women and or moms or working moms are always on the go and always in this movement. And sometimes I think a bit competitive who has more to do, right?
yeah,
Like I felt that a lot, that I'm like, oh no, I like to take my 5 minutes for me
yeah,
and do whatever I want. Like I
yeah,
can sit, and sometimes I think for women it's even hard to just sit and do nothing. Like literally just sit with yourself and do nothing, and how uncomfortable people get. I no longer get really uncomfortable doing that. I actually really like that's where I found peace. Like definitely during the pandemic too, I would have to step outside, even though in New York they're like, don't leave your apartment, but not being outside with nature, and I know nature in New York, but I live by the water, the East River, but it's still water.
yeah,
And there's still greens and there's still like grass on the
yeah,
ground. Just being aware that to take those moments. And I can even see women sometimes fearful of even taking moments for themselves.
yeah. I think it gets harder when you become a mom because there's so much more to do. And I'm
Hmm.
thinking about, you mentioned like there's a lot of society pressure on keeping up and being on this timeline and doing what everybody else is doing. And that's part of the book about being bold, is really living your life that's authentic to you. And it might look different from how other people think it should, or maybe even what you thought you should do, right?
Hmm.
And really being bold in saying, this is what I want, even if it's different from what my friends are doing, what other moms are doing, what my coworkers are doing, and being bold enough to stand in your own, and to first understand your what what your own heart is really saying, right? And then to actually act on it, and so it's also like, so I take people through a process from moving from their head into like their heart, their intuition, that type of thing, whatever you want to call it, your instincts, whatever resonates with you, and really getting clarity on the different voices, right? So the voice in my head is really loud. It's kind of harsh. Usually has this tone of like, you're not doing this, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not in some melody like that, right? And it feels like it's really coming from my head. And moving people into, you know, quieting down that voice a little bit, or even just recognizing it, and then understanding, when I really want something, what does that feel like? And what's the pace of that voice? Because usually when I really want something, usually it's very quiet, very slow, and it's very simple. It's usually like, do this. Whereas the voice in my head is like rationalizing and trying to figure things out and, putting myself down. And and learning to make the distinction between all of that thought to, you know what, I really want to go for this thing. And even though like I'm a little bit scared of it, I still really, it would be really awesome to have that. Does that make
Yeah. Well, that's total sense. And this is like how you coached me 13 years ago, because I remember coming to you saying, I want to get married. Okay. Was I behaving or doing or showing up, or any voice in my head was aligned with that? Not at all. I always go back to that. I was like, oh yeah, I said I want this, and then this is what I did. Does this look like? Not at all. And then I keep saying, the best question you ever said to me after that is like, how much longer? It was like I use that all the time to my husband now. How much longer? How much longer? Just tell me so I don't like nag him about it. How much longer? And when you said that to me, my answer was 2 weeks. And I kind of went buck wild for 2 weeks. And then I remember coming back and we had our session in Chelsea. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. Like I needed that time, but I needed the question, like I needed the whole process. And I think, yes, knowing what you want, but actually, are you showing up for what you want? And how are you showing up for what you want? And are they aligned? Because I wasn't back then
well, yeah,
at all.
and sometimes getting aligned is messy. Like we kind of think that like we just, but usually my experience, it's been kind of messy, right? Like, because I remember your situation, it's where it wasn't so straightforward. Because even I, as your coach, was like, I'm not sure which way this is going to go, but I trust that whatever's going to happen is meant to happen. And it was a beautiful thing because you got what you wanted, right? And so it was really helpful for me because I was like, yes.
And it wasn't on my time. It wasn't like this timeline. Like I even remember the conversation that I had, and he's my husband now, from after having it. Just like literally, I remember another great thing you said to me was like, do I really stand in my truth? Meaning like, do I, what's the word? Like honor my word. Like I was saying one thing, but never honoring that. Right? So I said, no, I won't be treated this way. And then allowing things to happen that didn't align. So it was right. Why would he believe me then saying it? Saying that, like, that was such like a light bulb for me. And then when I really stood in my truth, he was like, holy shit, you're not joking this time. And I'm like, you're right. Why would you have believed me? Because I said it all these years before. So that's another thing that like just totally blew me away of like when your words have me, like your words matter.
But you have to back it up with the behavior. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And I think that's a great point, Jackie, because I think sometimes we think we're being clear, which is why it's so helpful to have a coach, because we think we're being clear because in our head it makes sense and we know this whole thing in our head and we don't realize that we're actually not. Because I think so often, like, we're thinking about this scenario about what we want, right? Or how we're lacking not having that, right? What I've found, and tell me if you think this is true, Jackie, is like, okay, so you wanted to get married, but you actually were thinking about all the reasons why you weren't. Does that make sense? Like, usually when we want something, we think about all the reasons why we don't have it. We're not actually focused and aligned with what we want. We're actually more aligned with what we don't want by accident. It's not, we're kind of just not really aware of it. So that's what coaching really helps, because a lot of the time we say we want these things, but our behavior isn't really aligning with that.
Yeah, for sure. I had a client that said the same. I want to get married. I said, okay, that's what you want. She goes, but I'm going to get divorced. I said, what?
Oh no.
I was like, Oh, you're not even married yet, girl. You're planning the divorce papers? Like, hold up. Let's roll this back a minute. Same thing. I was like, you're focused on getting divorced
Yeah.
because that was her perception of what happens in marriage. Like, I guess she experienced divorce in her family or whatever. But I just when she said that, and I didn't mean to laugh or whatever, but I was like, girl, what's going on? Like, that's what you're focused on. You're saying you want this, but you were focused on this, and usually it's not what you want. So that's
Yeah.
an excellent point.
Yeah. That happens all
Oh,
the time. Even I do it too. I think I'm focused on the thing, but I'm really focused on what I'm lacking about why I don't have that thing.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So this has been awesome. So a little bit more. Be Bold. It's on A Guide to Unbreakable Confidence. It's on Amazon now, and I'm not sure when it's shipping, but I'm anxiously awaiting.
It's pre-ordered, so I think the shipping keeps getting delayed a little bit. So the last I've heard is the end of May, like May 24th. But if you go to beboldbook.club, you can buy the book through Amazon and upload a screenshot of your proof of purchase. And so because it's pre-orders and you don't right away, I'm gifting a free online Unbreakable Confidence course that comes with 5 modules and worksheets downloadable, and then 2 bonus. One's a visualization and the other is a mind training. So get that if you go to beboldbook.club and pre-order the book.
Great, I'll put that on there. And I went there already. And look, everyone, these are questions that some of these questions are like your one-on-one. So it's like you're getting all of Anna right there for the cost of a book and all in your one-on-one.
Yeah.
And just one last question. I talk a lot about self-care. What do you do for self-care?
So for me, self-care, it physically looks different. I don't do the same thing every day, but part of it is I usually try to incorporate some type of juice, like watermelon juice, celery juice, that type of.
Mm.
I also drink these vitamin green powdered drink, so it's just like basically like a green drink. So that, but really, I would say what I do consistently is just have an awareness practice, where I try to just be aware, even when I'm off, even when I'm having quote unquote bad days, even when I'm having negative thoughts, I try to be really gentle with the awareness of just watching. So, kind of not being the thoughts, but watching the thoughts. And that's really what I would been the most transformational for me. And it's also been the thing I feel like is the most loving. And but other than that, I try to, I consistently would say I eat healthy. I do have occasional pizza and pasta, but generally speaking, I keep my diet very clean because I know how it affects my mind. So and I try to exercise when I can. It's been harder with the pandemic, but exercise is another thing. But overall, I would say just having that awareness, practice, and kindness towards myself. And I'll just say one last thing. If you're really struggling with confidence, one of the easiest ways to shift is to think about others. Because usually when we're upset, depressed, down, we're thinking about ourselves and what we're lacking. And the easiest way to feel good is to think about others. What can you do for somebody else? So like, for example, if like when you have that fear, Jackie, like you think about what value you can bring to others, right? Like you've gotten that feedback. That's what helps keep you going, is that you take yourself out of the equation. It's not about you. We think the world revolves around us, and it really doesn't. Like, so if you think about others, you can do small acts of kindness. It really helps as well. Even just checking in on your friends, especially now.
Oh, that means so much. And exactly, just reaching out to somebody and just saying hi and just
Yeah.
checking in. And yeah, the world doesn't revolve around us. Maybe our little ones think they do, like the little kids think,
Yeah.
but They're so good. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you for that. I'm just so honored for you to come on here to be on Small Talk. I really appreciate it. And everything you've done for me over like 13 years. You don't know how you're still always somewhere asking me a question, Anna. And I'm like, sometimes I don't want to answer them. And I'm like,
Oh God.
it's like, with coaches, like your clients always have a bit of this love, I don't like you sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Like pushing me and I don't really want to be pushed.
Right. Can you not do that
Yeah.
today? But it's all good, and I obviously totally support and promote coaching all the time. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you everyone for listening to Be on Small Talk every Thursday at 4 o'clock, or you could check the rerun of this. You have to go to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, Audible, and YouTube. Thank you so much, and go get the book. I'll put the information here. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Jackie.
Bye.
Bye.